Tom Jones performed a song no one knew while sporting a new wardrobe as he took the stage in Las Vegas in 1975. Everyone was surprised by what transpired next. The crowd began jeering. People tossed drinks. Some even left. He had to be escorted away by security as the irate audience chanted, "Go home." For 6 months, Tom didn't perform because he was so distraught. However, the worst aspect? His song was not the true cause of their hatred. He concealed it for 48 years, but it was something far darker. On June 7, 1940, Tom Jones was born in the South Welsh town of Treforest, which is close to Pontypridd. Like many males in their town, his father mined coal deep down, while his mother took care of the household. Life was close-knit but difficult. The culture included music, and Tom's voice appeared to reflect it even as a youngster. At one point, his father wished that Tom would follow in his footsteps and work in the mines, but his destiny was drastically different. Everything changed when I was 12. Tom contracted TB, which at the time was a terrible sickness. He was confined to bed for 2 years, unable to go outside or lead a typical childhood. It was the darkest period of his life, he subsequently claimed. Something else, however, began to develop in that empty bedroom. His passion for music. He listened to the radio every day as he had nothing else to do. Little Richard and Elvis Presley were among the American rock and roll and blues musicians he heard. He heard them. He began to feel the kind of song he would sing himself someday. Tom didn't much enjoy lessons or sports when he eventually went back to school, but he was already noticeable for another reason: his voice. Teachers had to warn him to slow down his loud and passionate singing at assemblies. Even why he was singing the Lord's Prayer like a gospel singer was questioned by one music teacher. It was obvious that he was taking a risk and that others were taking notice. He finally dropped out of school at the age of 16, eager to pursue the ambition that had been developing within of him for years. Tom Jones wed Linda Trenchard, his high school sweetheart, in March 1957. Both were only 16 years old when they were pregnant with their son, Mark. However, their romantic journey began much earlier. Tom was instantly enamored with Linda when they first met, at the age of 8. After years of pursuing her, she eventually consented to date him at the age of 15. Up until Linda's passing in 2016, their marriage lasted for almost 60 years. At 75, she had fought cancer 3 times. They stuck by each other through it all. Nevertheless, Tom was candid about cheating while he was becoming well known. He said that, while on tour, he had sex with hundreds of women annually at the height of his fame. He said in an interview that no one ever talked about the affairs. Linda never went up to him. "She loves my marriage, and I love her marriage," he stated. When Tom joined Tommy Scott and the Senators, a Welsh beat group, as their main singer in 1963, his musical career officially began. After the band's original singer resigned and they required a new singer, he received the opportunity. Tom was invited to join a neighborhood pub after a bassist recalled him playing there. For a few pounds and a few beers, Tom consented. At first, they performed in working-class settings all around South Wales. They initially had 2 local managers and even collaborated with renowned producer Joe Meek, but things didn't take off. They were sad when they got back to Wales. The pivotal moment then arrived. When Gordon Mills, a manager from South Wales, saw Tom play one evening in a bar, he spotted his potential right away. After taking Tom to London, he gave him the new name Tom Jones, which was based on the popular film of the same name. Additionally, the band had a name change, going from the Senators to the Playboys. Next came the Squires. Prior to a falling out in 1969, when Mills fired Vernon Hopkins, the bassist who brought Tom in, they remained friends for years. It was difficult in those early years in London. Living together in a dilapidated flat in Notting Hill, Tom and the band had little money for food. On one occasion, they devised a last-ditch scheme to obtain food. They located a restaurant that had a large enough bathroom window for them to go out. They would eat, slip out the back, and flee. The situation became so dire that Tom considered terminating it all. But he persevered. He would be worth more than $250 million in years. But he was formed by the fight, which was real at the time. Tom gave a speech in 2017 about a hitherto untold aspect of his early career. During that time, when the Harvey Weinstein incident was in the news, Tom revealed that sexual harassment of both men and women occurred in the music industry as well as in Hollywood. During an interview, he acknowledged that early in his career, someone tried something with him. "It wasn't bad," he continued, "just someone tried to pull." "No, thank you," I replied. Vernon, a former bandmate, once talked about a troubling encounter with producer Joe Meek, though he did not name anyone. At one point, Tom yelled that he had been groped and fled from Meek's residence, according to Vernon. Even though Tom later claimed that the event left him feeling awful, he simply left and didn't see the individual again. Gordon Mills, a man, entered a small Welsh nightclub in 1964. He was a songwriter with a few songs under his belt, but he wasn't in the music industry's elite. But he witnessed something unique that evening. Under the stage name Tommy Scott, a young Welsh singer named Thomas Jones Woodward and his band, the Senators, were performing. The 24-year-old singing inspired Mills with its unadulterated strength. He was not polished. However, there was a certain allure to him. Mills had a vision instantly. The young singer was persuaded to change his name to Tom Jones, dress sharp in a tuxedo, and abandon his image from the adolescent club. The man was a wonderful fit for the moniker, which was taken from a well-known movie. Mills observed the way older women responded to Jones as well. The music wasn't the only thing they liked. They desired his proximity. Tom Jones' reputation would be heavily influenced by his sex appeal. Mills quickly secured him a contract with Decca Records. In August 1964, Jones' debut song, Chills and Fever, was released. The moment should have been significant, but it wasn't. It was a messy recording process. Some of the versions that Joe Meek, the original producer, created were never released. When Jones eventually recorded the official version, the label hired studio musicians to correct the band's perceived shortcomings. Although the last music was energetic and loud, it failed to make an impression. It was deemed excessively polished by critics. Even worse, the single never made it to the charts. It appeared for a while that Tom Jones might pass away before he could begin. However, It's Not Unusual followed. This second single was a game-changer. Originally, Mills' and Les Reed's song wasn't even intended for him. Sandy Shaw, a rising talent at the time, was offered it. However, she saw Jones' potential and offered him the opportunity to record it. It was brash, bold, and catchy. The BBC declined to broadcast it. They found Jones's voice overly seductive. However, it was played continuously on Radio Caroline, a pirate radio station. The dangerous exposure was successful. It was a hit tune. In the UK, It's Not Unusual peaked at number 1 in March 1965, only a month after its release. It rose to the 10th position on the Billboard charts upon its arrival in the United States in April. Tom Jones became a worldwide sensation all of a sudden, not just a Welsh singer wearing a tuxedo. Mills swiftly re-entered the studio, riding the wave. Along Came Jones, his debut album, was released in June 1965. His breakthrough hit was blended with covers, and it peaked at number 11 in the UK. Once Upon a Time was his second single, but it wasn't as powerful. It maintained his reputation even though it reached at number 32. Then a gentle rendition of an old ballad, With These Hands, appeared. Nor did it place in the top 10. However, it was more effective and demonstrated his vocal range. The song What's New Pussycat was requested to be recorded by Tom Jones in 1965 for a film starring Woody Allen and Peter Sellers. He was hesitant to do it at first. The music seemed odd to him and not really his style. Jones preferred to perform soul music, such as that of Otis Redding or Wilson Pickett, rather than a quirky pop song. Even Christ, he said. What on earth are they expecting me to sing this for? The renowned composer Burt Bacharach, however, was adamant that Jones sing it. For this insane song, I need a big voice, he told him. I need an authoritative voice because this is a weird movie. In the end, Jones consented. He put everything he had into recording it. His strong voice made the strange little tune a big smash. It remained at number 3 for 12 weeks on the Billboard charts. It became one of his signature tunes because of how well liked it was. Another significant opportunity came Jones' way that year. He was asked to sing Thunderball, the theme song for the newest James Bond film. At start, it was not how it was planned to happen. Two singers had already recorded Mr. Kiss Kiss, Bang Bang, another song that the producers had already chosen. However, the studio asked that the word Thunderball be included in the song, so they had to rapidly write a new one. Under duress, Jones recorded it, and he claimed to have almost fainted as he sang a long high note with such vigor on the last take. He claimed that after I closed my eyes and held the note for so long, the room was spinning when I opened them. Along with What's New Pussycat and It's Not Unusual, the song became another smash. He stood out during the British invasion thanks to it. Jones stood out from the throng thanks to his powerful, deep voice, even though many British performers were also gaining popularity in America. As his renown grew, he won a significant prize in 1966. He won Best New Artist at the Grammy Awards. This mattered greatly. He wasn't simply another pop performer following a fad, that's for sure. His talent was genuine. And he was now well known in America as well. Jones had demonstrated by that point that he could perform a wide range of genres, including pop, rhythm and blues, and movie themes. Gordon Mills, his boss, hoped he would be more than just a showy celebrity. He had long-term plans, and the Grammy helped open even more doors, particularly in America, where Jones would soon start doing shows in Las Vegas. But his seductive look wasn't adored by everyone. Particularly when women in the audience tossed underwear on stage, several people felt that his acts were too outrageous. Jones' management understood that he would have to alter that perception if he was to have a long career. They therefore tried something different in 1966. Jones recorded Green Green Grass of Home, a more subdued and poignant country tune. It revealed another side of him, one that was more serious and passionate. It was a huge hit, putting him back in the American charts and at the top of the UK charts. Delilah, another dramatic ballad with a sinister backstory, was released by him 2 years later. Despite the fact that it dealt with murder and jealousy, people adored it. It was memorable due to the melody and the way Jones sung it. One of his most well-known performances, it peaked at number 2 in the United Kingdom. His image was altered by these tunes. His status as a heartthrob had changed. He was a true artist with depth and variety. Bigger things came as a result of this new image's success. This is Tom Jones. His own television program debuted in 1969. The series aired between 1969 and 1971, and simultaneously shown in the US and the UK. It was a huge deal, not just well-liked. Jones was nominated for a Golden Globe for his outstanding performances, which extended beyond his role as presenter. At the time, he was receiving an almost unheard-of salary of $9 million a season. Because of its amazing guest list, the concert gained notoriety. The Who, Janis Joplin, Cher, Stevie Wonder, Nancy Sinatra, Peter Sellers, and Ella Fitzgerald were among the well-known performers. The show was unlike anything viewers had ever seen on television, with 15 episodes in its inaugural season that were full of excitement and music. Jones began doing shows in Las Vegas while his act was gaining popularity. From the son of a Welsh coal miner, he became one of the most well-known figures in the city. His initial 18-month stay was a great success. The International and Caesars Palace were among the larger venues he later performed at. At one of his own shows, Elvis Presley introduced him, demonstrating how well-known he had become in Vegas by 1974. Elvis declared to the audience, "I think he's one of the best singers I've ever seen." The fans were enamored. Some even joked that in order to view his well-known dancing routines up close at a 1990 concert, they would need binoculars. Many people didn't care if he sang or not. His energy was simply adored by them. His performances were renowned for their intense energy and powerful musical prowess, which attracted audiences for years. Jones also gained notoriety for something surprising. At performances, women began flinging their panties at him. The Copacabana in New York is where it all began in 1968. During a presentation, he was perspiring, and some women offered him napkins to wipe his face. Then one of the women went one step further and gave him her panties. After the story appeared in the following day's newspapers, the trend gained traction. It got out of hand when Jones came to Vegas later that year. On the stage, fans even started throwing room keys. He accumulated so much lingerie over the years that he was joking that he could start his own Victoria's Secret store. Fans continued discussing it into the 1990s. A woman at one event chuckled and said she had considered doing it herself, adding that it would be amusing if someone tossed underpants on stage. Jones and Elvis Presley also developed a close bond around this time. Their relationship deepened in Las Vegas, but they first met at Paramount Studios in 1965. Elvis and Tom clicked immediately, even though he didn't usually get out with other performers. Together, they would converse about music, play guitar, and sing in private, and occasionally stay up all night. Jones was showering in his hotel room after a performance one day when Elvis unexpectedly arrived with a new song he wanted to perform. Priscilla, Elvis's wife, even observed how different and content he appeared to be with Jones. She claimed that it was evident that Tom had a deep understanding of Elvis's music, which had a significant impact. But he had other thoughts besides music. He was at the height of his fame in 1970, when Jones and Mills started MAM Records. It was a daring foray into the music industry that went beyond simply becoming a label. I Hear You Knocking, a successful song by Dave Edmunds, was their debut release. Gilbert O'Sullivan, who gave the company its first major record in 1971, was one of the up-and-coming artists they signed. With musicians like Engelbert Humperdinck and Lindsay DePaul, there was further success. Music wasn't the end of MAM. In order to demonstrate that Jones was more than just a singer, they also made investments in slot machines and airplanes. However, by the late 1970s, things started to shift. American labels began to dominate the market. After losing ground, MAM was finally acquired by Chrysalis Records in the 1980s. Nowadays, BMG owns its catalog. In addition to his fame as a musician, Tom Jones was also well known for his numerous extramarital romances. One of the most talked about involved Marjorie Wallace, who had recently won the 1973 Miss World title. When they first met backstage at the London Palladium, she was just 19. By the next month, Tom had purchased similar bracelets for Wallace and his wife Linda, whose birthdays were only a few days apart. When Tom and Wallace were photographed kissing on a Barbados beach during a Miss World TV show, the affair became a big scandal. Wallace lost her crown as a result of the pictures, and things became even more chaotic. She said that she was engaged to Peter Revson, an American race car driver. Eventually, when Tom realized Linda was going to find out, he abruptly ended the relationship. Heartbroken, Wallace required dialysis to recuperate after overdosing on sleeping drugs. Although she insisted it wasn't a suicide attempt, the event left her feeling extremely disturbed. What had started out as a moment of celebrity had become a horrible and agonizing event. Tom had affairs all the time. They were actually constant. He once confessed to having sex with about 250 women a year throughout the 1960s and 1970s, when he was at the height of his reputation. For meeting groupies, he even had a dedicated dressing room. According to his publicist, Tom was never renowned for his loyalty from the beginning. Naturally, this had a negative impact on his marriage. The clash between Linda and the Supremes was dramatic once Linda learned of his involvement with Mary Wilson. Later on, Tom said that she physically attacked him, and he simply stood there and took it. They eventually reached a tacit understanding. They didn't discuss what he was doing while on tour. However, Tom asserted that Linda had boundaries and that the marriage wasn't open. During an interview, he made a joke about how she would hurt him if he went too far, and not in a way he would like. In spite of everything, they managed to remain together. While on tour in the United States in 1987, Tom briefly dated model Catherine Berkery. Jonathan, her son, was born the year after she became pregnant. It became a drawn-out judicial battle because Tom denied being the father. A DNA test mandated by the court established his paternity. A judge also formally recognized it in 1989. Tom consented to pay child support and private school expenses. He never did meet his son, though. He claimed that he felt confined by the circumstances and stayed out of his way. He wouldn't even discuss it for years. Only in 2008 did he acknowledge that the court had been correct all along. Jonathan, who was 23 at the time, openly pleaded to have just one encounter with his father. He said, "It would be awesome just to hear him say my name." However, Jonathan never got that moment, and Tom remained mute. Through everything, Linda did not leave. She had known Tom since they were young children growing up in Pontypridd, South Wales. At the age of 15, they began dating, and shortly before the birth of their son, Mark, at 16, they were married. Linda tended to avoid the spotlight at home and seldom accompanied him on trips. Tom didn't pretend that she didn't put up with a lot. He frequently declared her to be his true love. The one person who grounded him every time. "I married Thomas Woodward, so don't try that Tom Jones bullshit with me," she once warned him, keeping him modest. In 2016, Tom was devastated when she passed away from lung cancer. Following her request, he sold their Los Angeles house and returned to London. He said that there could never be a history like the one he shared with her, thus he would never be married again. Tom Jones was in an odd situation by the middle of the 1970s. Though his music wasn't connecting as much as it once had, he was still well known throughout the world. Say You'll Stay Until Tomorrow, which he wrote in 1977, was a surprise hit on the country charts in the United States. In February, it peaked at number 1 for a week and peaked at number 15 on the pop charts. But it didn't even scratch the surface in the UK. It would be his final big hit for almost a decade. The idea was difficult to accept. Jones was among the most well-known celebrities in the world just 10 years prior. Nowadays, he was primarily perceived as a Vegas performer, which he found extremely offensive. "I only ever played 2-week residencies, maybe 4 times a year, but it was said that I was always bloody there," he once stated. He was not helped by the image that stuck in his mind. He had stopped doing large-scale TV shows and wearing gaudy clothes by the early 1980s. Singing romantic songs that were mainly appealing to American country fans, some reviewers even referred to him as an old warhorse. Then, in 1986, Gordon Mills, his longtime manager, passed away. After finding Tom in a small Welsh club, Mills assisted in starting everything from the beginning. He even influenced It's Not Unusual, Tom's breakthrough smash. Mills' death was more than just a personal tragedy. The man who had led his career to its conclusion was gone. Tom took a gamble. He delegated his career to his son Mark, who is 29 years old. The majority of industry professionals said it was a bad idea. Although Mark lacked experience, he was able to recognize the issue. The way his father looked and dressed had become a joke. "We had to strip everything back," Mark subsequently stated. So they made a big risk. For years, the consistent Vegas performances that brought in money were cancelled. They eschewed safety in favor of inventiveness. That choice was successful. In 1988, Tom performed Prince's Kiss on television for the British electronic ensemble Art of Noise. His rendition was passionate, audacious, and unvarnished. They contacted him and inquired if he would like to record it with them. The song was reimagined in a funky, crazy way. It was a huge hit when it was released in October. The song peaked at number 5 in the UK, surpassing Prince's original there, and it also reached the top of the charts in New Zealand and Spain. With Tom's new appearance and voice, the music video took home an MTV award. Suddenly, young followers who had never witnessed him at his best took notice. "What Kiss did," Mark subsequently stated. "It eliminated everybody who had doubts about Tom Jones. Either you received it or you did not." A 48-year-old singer who had been marginalized by the pop industry made a strong return. More than that, it demonstrated his ability to still surprise others. Everyone was taken aback when Tom Jones signed with Interscope Records in 1993. When many of his contemporaries were losing their prominence, he launched a daring new album titled The Lead and How to Swing It at the age of 54. In the UK charts, the debut single, If I Only Knew, peaked at number 11. It made a statement in addition to becoming a hit. Jones was not merely an old-fashioned guest when he performed it at the 1994 MTV Europe Music Awards, he was the host, and he won over a far younger audience than his initial fanbase. The album was shocking in its own right. Jones collaborated with musicians like Jeff Lynne, Flood, and Teddy Riley, fusing contemporary music with vintage strength. He performed at the House of Blues to kick off the album, bringing down the Vegas glitz to highlight his enthusiasm and voice. Most commentators thought that the production made an excessive effort to sound contemporary, but some disagreed. Jones was still a skilled entertainer. Easily, he transitioned between his new songs and classics like It's Not Unusual. In 1999, Reload followed. It was a phenomenon, not just a resurgence. In 1999 and 2000, the album not only peaked at number 1 in the UK, but did it twice. It had 5 UK top 40 songs and sold over 4 million copies globally. It was unique because of the format. 15 duets featuring musicians from throughout the globe. Alongside Robbie Williams, Van Morrison, the Stereophonics, and others, Jones sang. Because each duet was recorded in the comfort zone of the other performer, the CD has a new, genuine sound. The most successful song was Sex Bomb, a lively song featuring producer Moose T. It even appeared in a Simpsons episode and peaked at number 3 in the UK. Not only did Reload bring Jones back, but it also restored his coolness. In addition to being a legend, he was a hitmaker, having achieved platinum status in 10 different nations. Amidst all of this, Jones also shone his sense of humor. In the wild sci-fi comedy Mars Attacks, directed by Tim Burton, he played himself in 1996. Alien attacks occur throughout his performance in the film, but he manages to survive the mayhem and even pilots a jet to aid in the evacuation of others. Though silly and extravagant, the part was clever. It reminded folks of how iconic he truly was while making fun of his Vegas persona. With celebrities like Glenn Close, Danny DeVito, and Jack Nicholson all around him, Jones stood out, and critics took notice. Even in his 60s, Jones continued to change. Shortly after receiving a knighthood from Queen Elizabeth II in 2006, he collaborated with Chicane, an electronic music producer, on the song Stoned in Love. The song peaked at number 7 after starting at number 42 in the UK charts and rising to number 8 in its second week. It was yet another successful move that was unexpected. Chakain had been searching for a vocalist who could strike high notes with force without using a falsetto. He picked Jones out of a number of Welsh vocalists. He gave a unique performance, with the chorus being explosive and the lyrics being delicate and gentle. When Jones first heard the song, he realized it was powerful, even though some people didn't recognize his voice. He referred to it as a proper song. Real, well-written, and not just trendy. He proved once more that he wasn't simply surviving the decades, but thriving in them, by promoting it with live TV appearances on shows like Friday Night with Jonathan Ross and Top of the Pops.